You haven't even opened your eyes all the way yet, but your hand is already moving toward your phone. Instagram, TikTok, Reddit. You're not even sure which app you opened first. You just started scrolling. And there it is, a little red circle with a number inside. And something in your chest shifts. You told yourself you'd check for just a minute. That was 45 minutes ago. This is happening to almost everyone around you, every single day. And you've probably asked yourself, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just stop? Here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. Your brain is running a system so ancient and powerful that a Silicon Valley algorithm figured out exactly how to hack it. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your phone feels this impossible to put down, and you'll have a clear, science-backed path to actually taking back control. I'm not going to tell you to just delete the apps. I'm going to show you the actual mechanism and give you tools that work. To understand why this is so hard, we need to go back about 100,000 years. Because the part of your brain running this loop is not the modern part. Your brain evolved a chemical reward system designed purely for survival. Find food, find safety, find connection, and dopamine floods your system. That signal kept your ancestors alive. But dopamine isn't just the feel-good chemical, it's the anticipation chemical. It drives you to seek, to want, to search. It's your brain's go-get-it signal, and it fires hardest before the reward arrives, not after. And here's the unsettling part. To your ancient brain, scanning your Instagram feed and scanning the savannah for food look almost identical. Both trigger the same dopamine-seeking circuit. In 2018, researchers at Harvard Medical School published findings that stopped the psychology world cold. They discovered that sharing personal information on social media activates the exact same brain reward regions as food and money. The nucleus accumbens lit up identically whether subjects received a cash reward or posted a photo that got likes. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between the two. This was not a coincidence, and it was not a side effect. The engineers who built these apps studied that neuroscience research very carefully, and they built accordingly. The result is a loop, a biochemical loop that your willpower alone was never designed to break. But now that you can see the loop, you can learn to step outside it. Let's go deeper into how this loop actually works inside your brain, because the mechanism is more specific than most people realize. Dopamine doesn't just spike when you get something good. It spikes hardest in the moment of anticipation, right before you find out whether the reward is there. The seeking is the high, not the finding. Every time you pull to refresh your feed, your brain releases a small pulse of dopamine. Not because you found something good, because you might. The uncertainty is the entire mechanism. But here's where it gets unsettling. Every spike is followed by a drop, and that drop goes below your normal baseline. You feel slightly worse, slightly more empty than before you opened the app. There was a woman, let's call her Maya, who noticed she felt strangely flat every time she put her phone down. Not sad exactly, just gray. So she picked it up again, and again, and again. She wasn't lazy. She was chasing baseline. This is the loop. Dopamine drops create a craving to fill the gap, and the only thing within reach is the same app that created the gap. That design is not an accident. Now let's talk about the single most powerful psychological trap built into every social media platform ever made. In behavioral psychology, this is called the variable reward schedule. B.F. Skinner discovered it in the 1950s, and it is the most effective method ever identified for creating compulsive, repetitive behavior. When a pigeon gets a pellet every single time it presses a lever, it presses steadily. But when the pellet comes randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, the pigeon becomes obsessed. It pecks almost without stopping. Sound familiar? Your feed works exactly the same way. Sometimes you open it and find something exciting, a message from someone you love, a post that gets you 200 likes. Other times, nothing. And that unpredictability is the entire design. The randomness is not a flaw, it is the product. Tristan Harris, a former design ethicist at Google, showed how every pull-to-refresh feature was deliberately modeled on slot machine psychology. The random reward is not an accident of engineering. It was a choice made by people who read the same psychology papers you're hearing about right now. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every notification is a lever pull. Every refresh is a bet. And your brain is the pigeon. This is not a willpower problem. It is a design problem. This third reason hits the deepest, because it reaches back to something far more primal than entertainment or boredom. For 100,000 years, being rejected by your social group meant death. No tribe meant no food, no shelter, no protection from predators. Your brain evolved to treat social exclusion as a survival emergency, because it was. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA used fMRI scanners to demonstrate something remarkable. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Being excluded literally registers in your brain the same way a wound does. So when you post a photo and it gets 3 likes while someone else's gets 3,000, your ancient brain does not read that as lower engagement metrics. It reads it as tribal rejection. The nervous system cannot tell the difference. Think of someone starting over in a new city, new job, new place, no established friends yet. Before the apps existed, she would call someone, write a letter, wait. Now she posts, and then she waits. And that waiting, for likes, for comments, for proof she still belongs somewhere, is agony. Instagram did not create the human need for belonging. It created a public scoreboard for it. And your nervous system cannot distinguish between a liked post and a life or death tribal signal. This fourth point explains something that confuses a lot of people. Why do so many of us feel strangely empty, even when our lives, on paper, are fine? Neuroscience has a term for what happens when your brain is flooded with dopamine spikes all day. Dopamine downregulation. Your brain responds by reducing the number of active dopamine receptors. It turns down its own sensitivity to protect itself. Think of it like sunglasses for your reward system. The more dopamine hits you take, the darker those lenses get. Normal life, a conversation with a friend, a walk outside, a good meal, starts to feel dull. Not because it is, because your baseline shifted. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania in 2018 ran a controlled experiment. They limited participants to 30 minutes of social media per day. Within 3 weeks, those participants reported significantly lower rates of depression and loneliness, without changing a single other thing in their lives. There was a man, let's call him Daniel, who couldn't understand why nothing excited him anymore. His friends seemed boring. His work felt hollow. His relationship felt flat. He wasn't depressed. He was desensitized. 200 dopamine spikes a day had quietly dimmed his capacity for ordinary joy. The good news, and there is genuinely good news, is that dopamine receptors recover. Your brain is plastic. It rebuilds. The sensitivity comes back. But first, one more layer of how we got here. Point 5 gets personal. This one is about comparison, and it is more corrosive than it looks. Social comparison is a completely normal cognitive process. Psychologist Leon Festinger described it in 1954. We naturally measure ourselves against others to calibrate where we stand. The problem is, we evolved to compare ourselves to a village of roughly 150 people. People we knew. People who were real. Social media gives that same comparison circuit access to 2 billion people, all of them showing their highlight reel, their best vacation photos, their most flattering angle, their biggest wins. None of their ordinary Tuesday afternoons where absolutely nothing happened. A Cornell University study found that people who spent more time on Facebook reported significantly lower life satisfaction, not because their life had gotten worse, but because their reference point for a normal life had silently shifted upward. The baseline moved without their permission. There was a woman who had a genuinely good life, a decent apartment, a job she didn't hate, friends who made her laugh. After 3 months of heavier Instagram use, she described feeling like she was somehow failing. Nothing in her life had changed. Her benchmark for normal had completely shifted. You are not comparing your real life to other people's real lives. You are comparing your internal experience, your doubts, your Tuesday anxiety, your 3 a.m. uncertainty, to everyone else's curated exterior. That is a comparison your brain was never built to process. And now the final piece. Once you understand this, everything else locks into place, and you'll see it is not a coincidence. Every second you spend looking at Instagram or TikTok generates revenue. Not for you, but for the platform. Your attention is the product being sold to advertisers. In 2023, Meta made over $117 billion from that product. The product is you. These platforms employ behavioral psychologists, neuroscientists, and design engineers whose entire job is one objective: maximize the number of minutes you spend looking at the screen. Every single feature exists to serve that goal. Infinite Scroll was deliberately designed to remove natural stopping points. Before it existed, you'd reach the bottom of the page and have to consciously choose to load more. That moment of friction was a moment of choice. It was removed on purpose. Autoplay, notifications, streaks, stories that expire in 24 hours. Every one of these is a deliberate behavioral design choice, calculated in a lab to engage the dopamine circuit before your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making part of your brain, even realizes it's happening. You have been playing chess against a billion-dollar machine specifically calibrated to your psychology, and you've been playing without knowing the rules. Now you know the rules. So let's talk about how to actually win. Here is what actually works. Not a 30-day digital detox, though rest can help. The approach neuroscience consistently supports is smaller, more sustainable, and starts today. Step 1. Switch your phone to grayscale. When the screen stops being colorful and visually stimulating, it immediately becomes less compulsive. Research from digital well-being studies shows this one change reduces usage by up to 20%. No willpower required. Step 2. Replace the cue, not the platform. The cue is boredom, or anxiety, or a quiet moment that feels uncomfortable. Instead of reaching for the phone when that feeling rises, insert a 10-second behavior, a slow breath, a stretch, writing one word in a notebook. You're not fighting the urge, you're redirecting the circuit. Step 3. Remove the phone from your bedroom tonight. Not forever, just tonight. Research shows 70% of Americans check their phone within 5 minutes of waking. And that first dopamine hit of the day sets the sensitivity baseline for every hit that follows. Change the first 5 minutes, and you change everything. Step 4. Batch your social media into 2 scheduled windows per day. Lunch and after dinner, for example. Outside those windows, the apps are simply closed. This shifts you from reactive mode to intentional mode. And that single shift returns authority to your prefrontal cortex. Within 2 weeks of even small changes, most people notice the same things. Food tastes better. Conversations feel richer. A book becomes absorbing again. The world did not get more interesting. Your brain got its sensitivity back. This is not a willpower problem. This is not a personality flaw. This is not a sign that something is broken inside you. You encountered a system that was specifically engineered, at enormous cost, to override your self-control. That is not weakness. That is what happens when ancient biology meets deliberate design. Your brain built this pattern. Your brain can rebuild it. Start with just one thing from today's list. Just one, starting tonight. And tell me in the comments, which step are you trying first? I read every single one. See you in the next video.